Good morning, Laguna Woods. Glad you tuned in once again. We're doing another day in our series this week of Finding God, or Seeing God is probably even a better term, because the amazing things that Joan and I have been talking about, you can either go from the perspective of this is by chance, or you can see God in it, or the Creator. And that is, we're being upfront. That's the perspective from which we're looking at it. And it's a matter of faith when we're, faith in God or faith in chance. And so today, I wanted to talk about one area that just absolutely amazes me, and that is life.
Human life.
How many babies did you have?
I have 3 daughters.
That is so great.
And it's the whole process was amazing to me. I never once thought about a birth defect, I guess because I was so young, but that never occurred to me. I just knew that God was in control. We were going to have another little baby, and at that time we didn't know the gender.
Well,
and so
that's right.
Didn't matter. It was just going to be a healthy baby, and I knew it.
But even if they're not healthy by our standards, the fact that life comes out of you and it's a new person is just amazing. How does that happen? Well, I just have to read 2 verses to set the stage for us today. We've been talking about the 6 days of creation. Well, just so that you know, mankind was made on day 6. And it says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and over the livestock. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female." He created them. And then, so that's why human beings reflect God. And I believe why we have personality.
Yes.
Because God has personality. And then I have to read this other one, though, in John chapter 1, so that we know where life actually comes. Again, the one is Jesus. And it says, through Jesus, all things were made. And then it says, in Jesus was life, and that life was the light of men. When things have life, that is amazing, because the alternative, if God didn't create man and woman, then just pure unliving matter had to somehow come together and create something that would live, and then that chance life had to somehow reproduce itself and find another one. And I mean, it just talk about amount of faith that it would take to believe that. Now, from my perspective, Joan, it also comes from the fact I'm the man, but I think if I was a woman, it just, because you've had babies.
Yes, it's a miracle of life. But I think when I really embraced it was when my first grandson was born. Because when my daughter was about 7 months pregnant, she had an ultrasound. Well, of course, when my children were born, we didn't have ultrasound.
Okay.
So this is a whole new experience for me. And so I knew that they didn't want to know the gender. And so I'm in the room with her when the doctor's doing the ultrasound. And I knew when she moved the probe and said, "Oh, you don't want to know." And they gave me a videotape that day, a little VHS tape that I could go home and watch. And it was maybe 3 minutes long. But I got to see my grandson before he was born.
You knew he was a boy.
I did not.
You did not?
Because I replayed that tape so many
You
times.
studied it,
And
though.
I couldn't see anything that would tell me one way or the other. So I just assumed it was going to be another girl. I have all girls. I'm thinking girl, right? But what really amazed me looking at this videotape is that he he opened and closed his eyes and spit out his tongue before he was born. And he had a long tongue, and to this day he has a long tongue, which I always thought was kind of funny because I knew that before he was born.
You've told him that by now, I'm
So
sure.
at the yes, and at the time I was working for an ophthalmologist, and we had just hired a new optometrist, and he was fresh out of school. And so I go back to work that day telling him about my experience. I got to see my grandchild on this ultrasound, and he opened and closed his eyes and spit out his tongue. And the doctor said, well, of course. And if you introduce light, he would have done this. I said, you're kidding. Before he's born, I was amazed.
I love that story.
And
I've heard
I
that
could see
sound, they
light.
can react to sound
Yes,
too.
and I knew that. And I
Okay.
just figured, well, that's vibration kind
Yeah,
of thing, you
yeah.
know. But I had that little video of him with his opening his eyes and spitting out his tongue.
Well, I mean, the point of our show today is primarily that these are living beings, human beings that are born. And I know that but you actually raise another point that their life begins in the womb. And that's an important thing to note in today's world. But I'll never forget when my both daughters were born, but in some ways, especially the second one, because by then I knew how great it was to have a girl. And so I really wanted a girl. And when that second one, I just lost it.
Oh.
God, you've given us another girl.
Isn't that
and
nice?
I just loved it.
So for our family, it was just the opposite because my husband and his brother and his uncles had all girls. My father was an only child and had all girls. So we destroyed two family names.
You wanted
I was looking for that boy, just for that.
Yeah. Well, it boggles my mind, the complexity, and now we know so much more of the DNA, how all the traits of the person are already there from the moment of conception, really. But certainly as they're born, it's all there in the DNA, and let alone the complexities of the eye, that somehow the eyeball sees light out there and it translates and it... Folks, all I got to say is think it through. Do you see God or do you see chance? And those are your options. And chance seems impossible.
It certainly does.
The statistical probability of an eyeball, let alone, which that's simple, by the way, and compared with the DNA in your system and that. So I've always said there's no way Darwin would have been a Darwinist. Because he actually, in many ways, knew that if life was that complex, it couldn't happen by chance, but he didn't know it at that time. So,
well, if evolution was true, why would it stop at man? Why would we not keep evolving?
Yeah, I don't know.
I just can't believe that.
Yeah. But there's also life in plants, and it's not thinking life, but I don't ever like to overlook any of that. In fact, I looked up well, that's another show, but I did look up how many species there are in the world. 8.7 million species of life.
Wow.
8.7 million. Now, why? Because God created them.
Right.
How could 8.7 million things happen by chance?
He likes variety.
Okay, our time's just about up, Joan. I'm loving these conversations. This one, for all you moms out there, you saw life. You know that didn't happen by chance. Think it through. We'll see you tomorrow with another challenging topic.